frugal cooking in the kitchen with Starry, apartment life, trying to save a little money and cook on a budget and be healthy and organic and vegan and all that good stuff. So tonight I got a really good deal. I got a really good deal on some tomatoes. Actually, there was a whole bunch of tomatoes at the grocery store. I scored 49 cents. Look at these, 49 cents. They're beautiful, and I'm just beginning to cut them up. Overripe tomatoes. Now, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing 12 cups. I'm tripling and quadrupling the recipe. But if you don't have 12, you can do actually as small as 4 cups of tomatoes. That's it. That's all you need is 4 cups to do this recipe. So chop them up, and then what you're going to do is get, if you're doing say 4 cups of tomatoes, you need 2 cups of chicken broth. And I already have mine going. You're going to bring it to a boil. You're going to put your tomatoes in there and just start boiling it. And then you're going to turn it down and simmer it for 20 minutes. So let me, I'm on cup 5. So I got cup 5. There you go. Nothing fancy, nothing fancy. It's going to go right in there. It's number 6. And I'm just going to keep adding them. 6. That's about a 7. See, I'm getting used to cooking on that electric stove. Ooh. But just cut them up and put them in your broth. And this is the broth that I like to use. Better than bouillon. They've got really great organic bouillons, and they're a little bit pricey, but I usually get them at the Mennonite store at closeout, so I get it really cheap. But you can do a vegetarian broth, or you can do a chicken broth, either one. There you go, all the tomatoes are in there. I'm going to bring it back up to a boil, and like I said, then I'm going to simmer it for 20 minutes. I'm going to put my cover on and simmer it. You know, I get being on a budget because I've kind of been brought up on a budget with our homestead. We were very successful at saving money and at going off the grid and being debt-free. I want to continue to be debt-free. And even though I'm single and by myself, I don't want to obtain any debt. And so when I look at my food, like right now, we're not growing tomatoes. I've got tomatoes that are going to be going into the garden. But right now, if I want fresh produce, I have to go to the store. Now I can rely on my pantry, but it's still very, you know, we got to get that fresh produce. So organic stuff is expensive, but that's why I always go to the section where they're getting rid of the produce that's overripe. And trust me, every store has a corner, trust me, where they're trying to move that produce. Don't be afraid of buying stuff that is overripe. You can always use it. Remember, you can make it into a jam, you can make it into a puree, you can make it into a soup, you can make it into a dessert. I mean, there's so many things that you can do. I mean, 49 cents for these tomatoes, and I'll tell you what, this is the cheapest meal I am going to have probably all year. Oh, what do I've gotten here? Got to have my dry celery, and I'll probably add a little bit of my dry, that's celery. I think I also have in here my dry parsley. Yep, there it is. I may grab a little bit of dry oregano. All this stuff I grow, right? And I can continue to grow. And I'll probably grab a little bit of garlic. And this is where I'm going to wing it. But trust me, follow the recipe. It's so easy. If you don't have any of these, the best ingredient that you will need to kind of give this tomato soup a pop is going to be your dried celery. And you know what? Here's a little tip while this is cooking. Say you don't have an opportunity to have a garden. You don't even have an opportunity to have a green stalk. You can go to the grocery store, buy a stalk of celery, and then cut it off at the root. And you know what? You can put it in a cup of water, just like I have, and it will grow. It will grow into new celery. New celery. See, I said that right, didn't I? Yeah. These are all tricks that will help you become a homesteader from an apartment or your home in a residential area. Isn't that cool? All right, so that's boiling. I'm going to cover that up, and then we're going to simmer it for 20 minutes. Now, while your soup is simmering, I like to add a big heaping of garlic. Maybe even more than that. I'm a garlic person. It adds so much flavor and pop. I find that soup fails when people don't add enough of the celery or the oregano or the garlic. Never be afraid to go heavy on anything, especially garlic. Oh, it's so good. 20 minutes. And now I remove my soup and just let it cool down a little bit, because what you're going to do is then put it in your food processor. And what I do is I don't process all of the soup. I take some chunks out and kind of leave them on the side because I like my tomato soup a little chunky. But you may want to put it through your food processor and just you know, get it all pureed. Some people like it that way. It's just dependent on your personal taste. But in the meantime, we're going to do a roux. And when you do a roux, there's a couple different ways. The traditional roux is with flour, usually 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 tablespoons of butter. And you know, look at that, butter. You can't take the off-grid girl out of me. I have my canned butter, still canning it. Grab some cold butter, because you got to have butter for this. You just have to. There's alternative thickeners. If you don't want to use flour, you can use psyllium. You can use chickpea flour, or you can use a coconut flour. You can also use cornstarch, but cornstarch is a little bit runny. And I am going to actually grab, I think, my coconut flour, and I'll show you how to do it. But simply, I usually do this in, there's my beautiful canned butter. And because I tripled and quadrupled this recipe, and I've got a lot in here, I am actually doing, I think it's like 6 tablespoons of butter to 6 tablespoons of coconut flour. But when you do your roux, you just have to experiment. So there you go. Isn't that beautiful? And you let that get nice and hot, and then it's going to thicken up. And you just keep adding your thickening agent, whatever that is. It still needs to thicken up. Sometimes you just have to eyeball this stuff. That's what I do. I do a lot of eyeball cooking. Here's a trick too that I do. Instead of putting the whole pot of soup in your food processor, I just simply drain the tomatoes out of it and I puree that. That's it. I don't put the broth in there. There's my tomatoes separated from my broth, and I'm just going to simply put it in my food processor. Ooh, sorry about the steam. Steaming it up. And well, it'd be help if I plug it in, huh? You know what? I don't edit anything out anymore. This is like real life, okay? Gotta plug it in. Starry. There you go. And that's it. And then I'll return that to the kettle. But look how beautiful that is. Oh. And we got our roux over here. Look at that. The roux over here. All right. And the original kettle's over here. And put that back on the stove, and you're going to add all those ingredients back together. You're going to mix them all together. And then we're going to get some of our dried beauties to add. All right, you're going to put it back on the stove, and you're going to add your roux, and you're going to kind of bring it to a little bit of a slow boil. And then I'm going to add my secret ingredient, which is my celery. Celery. I'm waiting for somebody to correct me. There's nobody here to correct me. I hope I said that right. Okay, so there you go. Soup for probably less than what, a couple bucks, and minimal carbs. I think, you know, if we added up the carbs, if you used a little bit of guava, you're looking at maybe 6 carbs. If you use the monk fruit, you have 0 carbs. You have an antioxidant, because the tomatoes are high in antioxidants, and oh, good stuff, right? And we got the garlic, which helps lower blood pressure. Oh, and you got a little bit of butter in there, but you know what? It's home canned butter, so it's all good, right? Calories, oh man, a bowl would probably go for less than 30 calories. You add the avocado, You know what? This is the thing I love about the way that I cook. I love to cook because I eat to live. I don't live to eat. It sustains me. This is my temple. This is what God gave me. So fill it with food that will fill you up in a really beautiful way. God bless.